Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we're about to get started with the Dispatchers Roundtable. This is going to be round 11. That's right, round 11. And this is going to be sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy. And let me throw something up here really quick, because of course, we always have to have a word. Because I wouldn't be able to do all of this without them, of course. So here we go.
InDigital is on a mission to improve the 911 industry. Our goal is to create something better to go above and beyond the current standards. Our passion for creating the most advanced, well-designed solutions led to our position as an industry leader in next-gen core services. For the millions of calls processed over our emergency IP networks, to our Text for 911 solution, Texty, to our disaster recovery and backup solution, Mevo, it's easy to see we love what we do. For more information, check us out at www.indigital.net.
Rapid Deploy believes that every public safety agency, regardless of size, should have access to the data they need when it matters most. That's why since 2016, our mission has been to reduce emergency response times and improve public safety. We are the industry's only integrated emergency response platform. Our web-based cloud platform includes analytics, mapping, dispatch, and mobile apps, purpose-built for 911 in the 21st century. Visit www.rapiddeploy.com to learn how we enable effective, efficient, data-driven emergency response.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
All right, welcome back after that word from our sponsors. Once again, this is sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this up here. Bam. All right, we're official. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests, and then we're going to get started with a little music and then jump in with our topic of the day, of the episode, which is public education of 911. All right, so the first guest is Anne, and she is the Assistant Director of Admin and Training at City of Cambridge, City Emergency Management out of Massachusetts.
Hi, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going well. Sorry, had a little...
I thought you stroked out for a moment. I was like, what happened?
For a second. Yeah, no, it's this thing. I'm like, what just happened?
Oh.
We're back.
All right. I was looking at the title and stuff, and I remember at the beginning of the episode that we did a few weeks back, I was like, that's a long title.
Yep, it's a mouthful.
It is excellent, though, and excellent to have you on. The next guest is going to be Roxy, and she's director out of Lyon County Emergency Communications Center, Kansas. Yeah, what is going on?
We don't have like a cool song like Oklahoma where I could have just been like, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. No, not in Kansas. No, we don't have a song. No.
Awesome. I mean, it was still good. I'm glad you did that either way. That was excellent. And then last but certainly not least is Ryan, and he's a systems administrator out of Gallatin County, Kentucky.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And now that we have everyone here, I'm going to go ahead and hit the music so that we can get started.
Do we dance? Is this the dance part?
Gentlemen, yeah. Children of all ages, welcome to the Dispatchers Roundtable.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. This is round 11 of the Dispatchers Roundtable, and we are about to get down with our topic, and we're going to be talking about public education of 911. Now, with everyone here in the comments as well, if you have anything that you want to share experience-wise, something that you've done at your center, please definitely throw that in the comments. Ask questions. We're going to be going back and forth What I want to start out with really quick, though, just to jump in here, because I meant to do this in the intro before I pulled everyone up, but I just want to, little shameless plug here and throw this out there. If you have not done so yet, please make sure it starts next week, Tuesday, and it's going to be Dare to Be Great Deuce #2 within the trenches.net/conference. You can go there and you can register for the conference. It's October 6th through the 9th. There are, I think I counted like 37 sessions actually. A bunch of amazing stuff that you're going to hear. And also, you don't have to be part of public safety to register. Registration is free. You know, if you're looking at getting into 911 dispatch at all, this is a perfect opportunity for you to go and check out everything that's going to be there so that you can get more of an idea about it as well. So there it is, once again, within the trenches.net /conference, and I will make sure to put that in the comments as well. But as I've said about 80 times already, public education of 911. Now this is a pretty big thing, and you know, when we were the four of us rather, we're talking about this before we jumped in. We're talking about text to 911, and I'm going to actually bust this out first because I was thinking in my old job, my old 9 to 5. One of the things that I did was I trained many dispatchers on how to use text for 911, and one of the biggest things that I feel really helped out, especially the state of Indiana, was the fact that they had a good public education campaign. The numbers were not that high, and I think it's everywhere. Text to 911 numbers are not high for the text to 911, but for the specific system that Indiana uses, they also have text from 911. And I know there's a lot of other states that use, or other centers rather, that use something like that. But the numbers were a lot higher. Now, let me ask each one of you, and we'll start with you. And Ryan, we just lost him. I think that happened too. He'll come back here in a moment. But and for you, with you know, you were saying in the beginning that you guys aren't getting a lot of text to 911. Do you think, you know, part of that is also because of, you know, public education?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that we're getting, you know, 2 or 3 a month. Honestly, I think that people should use it when they need to use it. But I do think we do need more public education on text and 911. The state of Mass actually did a good campaign. They pushed it out when it first came out, but then it kind of started dying down again. So I think now it's up to the individual agencies to actually push it out to their own communities and try to do some more in-house. And then COVID hit, and we haven't been able to do anything because all of our stuff has been canceled. So it's definitely been interesting, but we definitely need to do some more public education.
How about you, Roxy?
You know what? We were with Ann. We've had text to 911 in the state of Kansas for about 5 years now. There was an initial push, and then it sort of fell flat. The state has a new hosted solution through Rapid Deploy with Radius Plus. So we're moving to a 911 texting where they can move from a voice call in 911, and we can transition that on the fly to text. And then it has translation services. I can't talk tonight, which we could utilize in a English as a second language scenario. So I've really been trying to hit that hard because we are a largely Hispanic community. And I feel like our current language service provider is a little slow to respond. So I think that if we can get people to understand that they could call us, and then we could move to speaking to them via text, and they don't have to hang up, that's a better place that I want to keep utilizing public education for.
Nice. What about you, Ryan? How's everything going on over in Kentucky?
Most of our state is not text capable. It's fairly uncommon. It's getting more popular, and we've had our option for about 2 years. We got it with our digital platform. We're using Texty. All of Northern Kentucky now is text capable. So And I'll say Northern Kentucky throughout the broadcast probably 2 or 3 more times, but Northern Kentucky is very different from the rest of the state.
Gotcha. Now, and I ask all of that as well because so with the state of Indiana, their text to 911, their numbers were between 800 and 1,200 a month. Again, that's for the entire state. But when using their text from 911 part of it, that was about 10 to 15,000 per month. Again, statewide because of every butt dial, every 911 hang up call, they were starting to change their policies where they were doing the text from 911 first. They were still calling, but they were doing the text from 911 as well because there was so much success. And they put a lot into their public education, not just television but radio, billboards, a lot around the colleges in the state. And a lot of people were afraid that texting was going to overwhelm the centers. I kind of had the thought as well. You got enough people who are calling and prank calling. Same thing with text, but I don't know. It seemed like people were using it more as a last resort, type thing because voice is best. So it felt like because of public education, it actually helped. And
Yeah, I agree.
I actually used. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I actually used our text from 911 last night on shift. I was covering a second shift on the radios, and I had a domestic situation, and I knew that the situation wasn't a lost signal type where they kept losing the call because the cell site that she originally pinged from on the map was less than 100 yards from the residence where she was calling from. So I would keep the person would be on the phone with me for maybe a minute at the very, very most, and then the call would go dead. And I'd call back, and she'd be on the phone for a minute. I could hear the arguing between her and a male party, and then the call would go dead. So I went to Texie and started texting her. And I said, this is 911. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Tell me where you are, so on and so forth. And she eventually started answering. And she was able to give me information that she had fled the residence. She went down to a neighbor's house. The male subject was still there. She was able to get her kids with her, so on and so forth. And it worked out great. So we definitely, along with everybody else, are using the text from. And we still haven't officially announced because we're waiting on the region to come up to where we are so that people traveling between counties don't think, well, hey, if Gallatin County's got it, then this county must have it. And they try to use it and it not work. So we're waiting on our region to get to where everybody's at the same level. And then we're gonna do a big regional press conference.
Yeah, that's amazing. We are using the text from 911 as well in our center for a lot of the pocket dials, a lot of the hang up calls and the silent calls. So definitely helpful. And we get a lot more answers on the text from 911 than we do from just calling the person back. I think that's something that maybe Indiana has seen the same thing. But we have to use a third-party vendor. Our 911 system is not capable of starting a text message yet. So it's still, Mass is still in its infancy in terms of the text to 911.
That's really where we're struggling, is helping people understand that you can move from the 911 call to the text. People don't understand that. So we've really tried to put out a lot of advertising in our local paper and in our Spanish language paper to help them understand, because we've taught people from a very young age that 911 is just calling, and calling is all you can do. And I think that's a real mental hurdle that people can't quite overcome just yet. We've really struggled to say, look at your text messages, we'll text you, and they just don't understand. So
Right.
Right.
Now,
And for us here in Mass, we can't use translation services on the text to 911 lines yet. So like I said, still in its infancy, still baby steps over here.
yeah.
It builds and it builds. Definitely does. Now, continuing with this whole thing here, and a couple of people are putting it in the comments already, but it was something that we were going to get to. Is what we've been dealing with now is the pandemic, COVID-19. A lot of trainings have been canceled, tons of stuff's been canceled, but also public education. Usually you're going into schools, um, festivals, county fairs, all of this, everything else. What are some of the things now that you're doing to combat that? Like, how are you getting around that corner there?
For us, we've never stopped. We had that conversation early. Public education is a cornerstone for our agency. I always feel like I want the public to put us out of business. So if we can teach them how to help themselves and educate them and mitigate problems, that's our job as 911 professionals. We were heavy in the schools, heavy into festivals, all of that. So my team and I really sat down and how can we pivot during COVID? So we moved a lot of our educational stuff onto our social media. Our county sheriff and our police department, they were already putting out public messaging for whatever was happening, if there was an accident or whatever people needed to know. So why should we reinvent the wheel? So we took our social media as an opportunity to do education. We read books, 911 books to kids on Facebook Live. I think utilizing social media platforms has really helped us stay involved with the community. And we have started creating videos to do public education training. We put our first one out this week, so we can do different topics and people can select those on demand. But I think our social media has been key in keeping that educational aspect going for us.
Excellent. Ryan, what have you seen?
So, in relationship to COVID, we really haven't had any opportunities. There's been nothing that we could do to change our ideas, and mainly because of the three of us here, I think our agency is the smallest. There's only 9 total employees. Amongst all of my other responsibilities, I'm also covering gaps in the schedule in the radio room, and it's hard to get that stuff done without being out in the public in those other fashions that we were before, like the county fairs and the festivals and the city ran events. And that just getting there was hard in the beginning. Everybody thought that the dispatch center is this unspoken, unseen group of people, and they're not meant to be in the public eye. So getting that thought process changed was a big step. And once we did do that, it was really beneficial for us. But because of the coronavirus, we don't have the opportunity. I like the Facebook idea, but unfortunately, our Facebook is usually sending out mass notifications to the county and our residents. And that's what we're doing with it most of the time. And it's really just a time thing. There's only 9 of us and it's hard to manage it.
Gotcha. What about you?
For us, it's been a little bit of both. I mean, we had about 25 events every year that we attended, between table set up for runs and half marathons and things like that. And with COVID, everything was canceled. We do have a very active police and fire Facebook and Twitter accounts, but we don't have our own at ECC, so it's still kind of baby steps in its infancy. We do have an Instagram account, I believe, but it's not being. Right now, it's not developed. It's not out there, but definitely see the need, and I'll definitely be pinging Roxy soon for some ideas, because I love it. I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, I should be taking notes right now.
Well, and I think it's just small, easy things. We've done a couple of just a tour through dispatch. It takes a quick 5 minutes for me to take my phone in there and just say, hey guys, here's Supervisor so-and-so manning the phones. And I think just opening up your doors and being transparent for just even a couple of minutes really helps educate the public. I mean, we don't have a lot of time now. Ryan hit that on the head. We're a small center as well, so we have to be efficient in how we're trying to get out there. But I think in the climate of where things are right now, it's really important that we are open and transparent, and we're showing people why 911 is important, because I don't think that we want to get to a place where we're back where Ryan's center was, where we don't want to see the 911 people, and I think that could happen really quickly. People could forget about us. So, I think a valuable piece of information, or a valuable quote that somebody told me is Coca-Cola. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows why it's good. Everyone knows where you buy it. And if everyone knew that already, why do they still have advertising? It's the same for 911. Everyone knows we're here. Everyone knows generally what we do, but we've got to keep putting ourselves out there in the forefront, so people can't develop stories about what those people in the dark room in the basement are actually doing. We really want to be open and help them understand. So,
right. What are some advantages to that? What are some advantages of being out in the open that way? Is it, them feeling more comfortable with who they're calling, knowing the type of people who are there, right? What are the advantages?
Right. I think that today was a good example. We're getting a new radio system, so I had to go out to a couple of schools and to an elderly apartment complex. And I walked into the elderly apartment complex. I hadn't been there in a couple of years. And the lady in the office, she said, hey, you're the 911 lady on Facebook. You just go wherever you need to go. You whatever I can do to help you. So, I mean, I just think it creates, officers are having that community contact all the time, and it helps us have that community contact, where we used to not ever have that. So I think it's just really important that, when people see us out in the world, they know, hey, that's this girl. She's a 911 operator. She's a hero, and they understand why we're heroes because we're teaching them that.
Perfect. And
Right.
what about you? What are some advantages?
So I love what Roxy just said, and I'm just going to keep referring to Roxy because I love what she's doing. And but for us, it's the same thing. Is just getting our faces out there. We when we first got the Rapid SOS Uber integration into our center, our PIO actually reached out to a couple of TV stations. We had them out. It was like my 15 seconds of fame, explaining to the host to the reporter that came to that center, what what we would see in our screens with the 911 Uber integration, and it was cool. And after that, like, we had people call in and just ask real good questions about, hey, so how does this really work? And we actually had an opportunity to have those conversations, but it is tough, especially where I'm in a city that always has something going on. So regardless of, we get overshot, shined by the police or by any of the other million other things that are happening in the city. I think it's just finding that spot for us.
What about you, Ryan?
In a lot of cases, we don't have, the call volume that either Ann or Roxy have, but, us being smaller and in a tighter knit community, we've had the opportunity to do some great things. One of the elementary school teachers is my neighbor. So several years ago, she reached out to me, and because if you watched my other episode, a lot of you guys know I'm a full-time firefighter EMT as well. So for that purpose, she reached out to me and said, hey, in October during Fire Safety Month, can you come in and do fire prevention with the first, second, and third graders? And I said, I'd absolutely love to do that for you. I got some pamphlets from, my insurance agent on fire safety donated them to us, and I went out and taught them, but I integrated 911 with it because I'm working at the 911 center as well. So I basically started with, when you're in an emergency, you call 911 and make sure that you answer the dispatcher's questions, and don't interrupt them. Wait for them to ask you a question. Don't hang up until they tell you to hang up. Just down the whole gamut. And then I went into the fire safety part. And then on the second day, they all took a visit to the fire station, and they got to see the fire trucks. Well, the dispatch center is right across the street from the firehouse. So they got a tour of the dispatch center and got to see it. You know, we made a test 911 call from one of my employees' phones, and they got to see the call ring. We, did a test dispatch. The fire department, the guys were all there, put on their turnout gear. They got in the truck and they pulled out of the station with their lights on, and they got to see how that whole process works. So, and in a lot of cases, there are parents with the children. So, having the parents there, we got the opportunity to educate both the children and the parents. So, and it kind of brings me to a really, really good point. Something that we're really, really good at in the fire service is public education. Mm-hmm. So they mastered that a long time ago. And everybody, they have events. We have events at the firehouse probably 25 times a year, where it's just called Touch a Truck. And we go to a parking lot somewhere at a church, and the kids get to see the fire truck, or they come to the firehouse. I think that we need to take some lessons from that, and we need to get more in the public eye, because just because we're behind doors and we're not out in the field doesn't mean that what we provide to our communities isn't absolutely vital. And I think that might have something to do with the struggles that I'm sure all three of us have had with funding and making the entities in our governing bodies understand why we need something, because nobody really knows what goes on behind those doors unless you're in that field or in that industry.
Right. You make me think about some of the events that I went to with my kids, and growing up, going and seeing the fire trucks, and that was like the coolest thing, the cruisers and stuff. But then thinking about when I was in dispatch and would have like a Citizens Academy come in, and they would see what was going on, and they said, "Wow, this is what it looks like." Like, yeah, this is what it looks like. Don't touch that button. and but then they're like, oh, even more into it. Just saying that, because if you tell someone not to touch the button, of course they're going to want to touch it. They're going to be interested in it. So we would say stuff sometimes, but there's a lot of different things in there. So yeah, no, I fully agree with that. But what when talking about that, you mentioned funding. And a lot of funding has gone into different places, especially with COVID-19 and such. But how much funding actually? Because I don't know this. You would be able to tell me and those in the audience, how much does funding actually go towards? How does that work with public education?
We do it on a shoestring budget. Mm-hmm. Some years we have a little extra that we can put towards things, but primarily we do it on a shoestring budget. We try to come up with, homemade stuff. We make a lot of homemade, poster boards and things like that. We have a couple of things we got from a Walmart grant several years ago. Walmart has some really good public safety grants that we utilized. So we have a simulator from probably 20 years old. So we take that still when we were able to go to elementary schools, but it's little. We don't have a lot.
And that's why I ask if there is something like a grant, grants that people can get for extra funding like that for those who are watching, that they would be able to learn that as well.
I believe that Walmart grant is still about 1,000 or 1,500, and in public education, you can make that go quite a ways. So,
right.
I've got the same grant twice. It's 2,500.
Oh,
the
awesome.
Walmart Foundation.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done it. So great.
Yeah, you can get up to 2,500, but it depends on the manager of the store, because the manager of the store is the one who approves it. The store that's closest to you. So if the manager of the store is a public safety fan, then you got a good chance of getting that grant. But if they're not, it'll go to like the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts or some other nonprofit organization. So sometimes they can be hard to get, but I got two of them. I got one in 2010 and one in 2011. I haven't wrote one since then.
What about you,
Yeah,
Ann?
for us, we have it built into our budget each year. Because we have so many city events, we do have like a huge need to be out in the public and helping, even if it's just a command post. And if we do have a command post, we'll try to sneak a table in there as well, which is a great thing. This year, or the past couple of years, the city of Cambridge hosts the Science Festival in April. I mean, this year it was canceled. And what we did was we had the 911 command van come down, and kids actually got to see and dial 911 from the van and actually see a dispatcher taking the call and all that stuff. So it was pretty cool for them to see that. But I do realize that I'm in a community that has the means to do that. I worked in smaller communities before where our public education was going into the senior center and having a conversation with, some of the folks that went there. In another small age, I worked, this is my third agency, but the second agency I worked for, we had each year, the fire department and the police department did a mock car accident for the seniors at the high school. It was like a prom night kind of thing, and we did the whole dispatch and the 911 call. So it was pretty cool to do. Things you can do in a small town. We actually got a car all wrapped and got to see the jaws of life being used, and we used some of the students from the high school to play as actors. But they got to play. They actually got to call 911 and say, hey, my friend is bleeding and I need help. So it's pretty. You have to have imagination to get your public education program up and running. And I think as long as you can finagle some hours here and there to get out in front of people and present your ideas, you can usually do a really good job.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's all about imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be creative. You got to find a way to catch their eye, especially if you're at the public events like the fairs and the festivals and the things where the public isn't really expecting to see you. They're expecting to see bands and bouncy houses and carnival rides. But if you can find a way to be out there and be personable and meet people and just introduce yourself to everybody you can, I think that you'll be really successful. I think that's really important. Just keep putting yourself out there.
Carnival ride. Yeah. Full moon in dispatch. You want to see a carnival ride? Come in during that time.
I was super excited this year. We actually got one of those Connect 4 boards, and it's actually like a life-size board. And I had this whole thing planned out with like, I'm going to ask you questions, and if you get them right, you get to put a little thought in. And then COVID hit, so we didn't get to use it this year.
Man,
we put little prizes in the bottom of ours. So like there's squishy balls and pins. So when they put the thing in, then they get the prize, whatever's at the end of the Connect 4 board. It's the best.
That's pretty cool. Now, with all of this going on, with COVID-19 going on, and really putting a damper on a lot of the public education events and such, Roxy, you talk about like all the videos and some of the live streams and everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
What have you seen that has worked?
I didn't think the stories would work, especially when the kids were over the summer. But we got a lot of great feedback on just reading 911 stories and then talking about them. I got a ton of pictures of kids watching my little live stream of story time. But I didn't think that would be anything at all, and a lot of people really tuned in. So it was pretty neat. And we asked questions to the kids during the live, and had several respond and tell us what they thought. So that was one that was very easy. It was a book we already had that was just sitting on a shelf and cost us nothing but time. So,
well, when you say 911 stories, like what exactly are you going with?
what was it? Pamela, gosh, what was her name? Furious Pamela calls 911, or Impatient Pamela. That's what it is. Impatient Pamela calls 911. Somebody had brought it in because they thought it was a funny book that they bought their kid, and nobody had ever done anything with it. And so I just took it, and we talked about how being patient on 911 is important, and knowing your address and things like that. And then we talked about a little spot of kindness and how being kind to others helps make a difference. So just little easy books, and then how they relate back to 911. So
nice. I have to figure out where you found that. Our mutual
it's
friend,
Impatient Pamela. It's so good.
Impatient Pamela. That is. Oh, hold on. Let me pull that off of there. Okay. Yeah. No, that. That's pretty awesome. I didn't even know that existed, so I'm gonna have to look that up and get it. Unless actually, what I'll do is I'll just go to your page and I'll play it for my kids. That'll be cool.
Sure.
So you've got that. That's one of the things that you've seen that's really worked and all. What about you, Ann? What are some of the things that you've seen that you guys have been doing that have worked?
So we started putting together, I don't know if you guys have seen like those animated videos on Facebook that are just like short, like 50-second videos, like for, let's see, it's a house tour, and it just goes through, shows some pictures in the background, has like some quick stuff. So that's what I'm working on now. Like what happens when you call 911, what happens when you have a medical. So that stuff is what we want to put out, and they're short little videos with a little bit of music in the background, and it's just sketchy. It's like the system I'm using, Animoto, and I'm using like the free version of it, so it still has their like little tag on it. But it's just something to have that's a little bit different. It's different than the usual just me being out there and talking, because I feel like I'm the only one who likes to be on camera. So it's tough. It's rough. It's really hard getting my dispatchers to actually be on camera. Like that's something they don't like, and I have certain ones that I can go to and just be like, please, 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 I will bribe you, I will make you cheese bread, and then they're like, okay.
It's all about that cheese bread. Nice. What about you, Brian? What are some of the things that you've seen that have worked?
For us, really, the only thing that's worked really well for us is just getting out there. My director and I actually, because we don't have the staff to send any more than just us out, and we need them to cover the radio, so we'll pack up a folding table, and we had our extension office make us a banner, our local extension office, with our logo on it, and I own a pop-up tent, like a canopy that we take to softball games in the summertime so you don't get cooked in the sun. And we take it with us, and we set up underneath it, and we go out, and somebody will sit there, and one of us will walk around. We'll hand out any kind of donated flyers we could get, and honestly, there's not a lot of training material even available for 911. I mean, like I said, it's something that I think that it's just been forgotten. Hey, what about them? But it's getting better. I'm seeing new things coming out that wasn't available when I started. So, like I said, it's there's not a lot available online, and we're just going out and meeting the people. That's what's been most effective for us. The last time we went out, we got like 400 or 500 people to come up to our table, and we registered them at the table for our Code Red. I don't know if you guys know what Code Red is, but that's our reverse 911 notification system we use countywide. And a lot of the people in our community are elderly, or they can't afford the internet, or they can't afford a computer, and there's some reason why they can't register themselves. So we had a laptop, and we went out and registered them. They came up, and we got 400 people in just a few hours of sitting at the county fair. So that's what's been most effective for us. And then the school trip, obviously. The school trip to the dispatch center in October during Fire Safety Month is something that's really effective for us. But other than that, like I said, there's not a lot even available. I mean, you can't buy a kit, that has all the training materials that you need. Our pub ed captain at the firehouse, he buys a kit online, and it comes with a case of those little plastic hats and pamphlets and pencils and coloring books and all the stuff you need. And we go out to the schools and hand it out. You just can't do that with 911. It doesn't exist. So
it might after this episode. Someone who's might
hopefully somebody important sees it.
Just have a kit like you're saying with some toy headsets and buttons on it that says you click on it and says if they need help or something. I don't know, voice activated, a bunch of different stuff that you could do with that. So there's a question here from the audience. I want to pull this up here really quick. And Ryan Dedman, outreach director with the 911 Training Institute. What up, bro? It's a question for the panel. How will next-gen 911 tools, i.e. real-time video, change your public education campaign in the future?
Did we not just talk about how NG911 is going to impact the dispatch centers?
Yeah, in our episode, we did. We did talk about that,
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start with you, Ann. How do you think?
See, real-time video scares me. I'm going to be very blunt and put it out there because it does scare me. I don't know what to expect. But then again, text to 911 scared me a little bit as well. Not as much, but I think video really scares me. I think we will have to work a lot more with the community to say what is appropriate to say, what kind of videos is appropriate to say, to send to 911, and what 911 does not need to see. So I think there is we will need to have those conversations with the community, because you know what, like right now we're getting the pocket dials from the babies playing with the phone. What if, mom and dad are, I don't know, doing something and the kid barges in with the phone and now they're recording it and sending it over to my center. And now, which is good if they're fighting, if there's something wrong happening over there. But if it's something that's rated R, I don't want to see it. So there is that side of it too, as well as if there is something going on where it's serious, somebody attempting suicide or something like that, then there's also the effect on the dispatchers themselves and this whole other side that we have to explore.
Right.
And went the exact opposite way I went with it. I wasn't really worried about things that aren't supposed to be coming across 911, which I didn't think about. It's a very, very good point, because people are going to do crazy stuff. I was worried about us and what we were going to see, and are our dispatchers ready to see what they're going to see? And my personal opinion is I don't think they are. I don't think the dispatchers are ready for that visual trauma that they're going to be subjected to. I mean, it's not going to happen every day, but the things that we see in the field, the car wrecks and the suicides and all those things, some of us have been on the phone with a suicidal subject that took their own life. And the audible trauma from hearing that gun go off and then that person not answering anymore is enough to scar you forever. Imagine if they're on a FaceTime call with you and you see it happen. How's that going to affect those dispatchers? So it has really nothing to do with how it affects public education. But again, Ricardo, I'm sorry, since I had a public forum to say it, I'm going to say it, because everybody wants to push these technologies in, and that's great. But I think that we need to be very, very careful about how fast they come in, and are we ready for it?
Yep.
Because we're still people. We are still human beings.
To Ann's point, though, that's also the reason why in the public education aspect of it, you're telling the public this is what an appropriate video would be. And, you know, they're not always probably going to listen in an emergency. They're not always going to, you know, whatever, what they think their emergency is an emergency to them. And they're going to probably send whichever. But having a strong education plan that way, to be able to put something out there saying, look, these are the types of videos that, you know, are going to be coming in. Because if you let them know as well, they're going to be affecting the people who are going to be seeing that, who's going to be, you know, sending help, you know, just at least to plant that seed a little bit so that they know as well. It's not just them. It's a whole circle. Everyone is going to be involved in this.
I've been on some weird. I've responded to some weird EMS calls. I'm telling you, and I can just think right now. Hold on, man. Let me FaceTime you. No, bro, don't do that. I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Roxy?
You know, I agree with everything that's already been said. And I think that being the first in technology isn't always the best thing. I feel like we're being pushed into something that hasn't been thoroughly thought out. And so until we start having some of those difficult conversations about video, that's going to be a hard pass for me as long as I can put it off. I think as far as public education goes, just kind of getting away from video to 911, we're going through a lot of technology changes here. So there's a lot more services available. So I think just being careful about how much we're assaulting the public with new things. You can do this now, and you can do this now. And really being strategic about how many bite-sized chunks of new things we're feeding to them. We're able to do something called What 3 Words. I don't know if you've looked at that yet, but basically the What 3 Words company has gridded out basically the whole globe and given parking lot stall size spaces 3-word addresses. So in our state-hosted map solution, we can get what 3 words, plug it into our map, and plot where people are. That's a big concept for the public to understand. You know, some of our college kids and our tech savvy folks, you know, that's easy, but we live in a farming community with a large Hispanic population. So it's just being really, really strategic in how you're explaining these kind of complex applications that we can utilize for NG911. And just helping people and continuously talking about that kind of stuff without overwhelming them.
Right.
That's a good point.
It goes both ways, right? It
Yeah.
definitely goes both ways. You got those little increments that you want your crew, you know, your dispatchers and call takers to take. You're going to want that the same for the public, so they can try to digest it, and we're not, you know, always going at each other, you know.
Because all of this stuff is great. All of this new technology is awesome, but that's just a lot for the public to understand, that there's so much more available to you now than just picking up the phone and dialing 911. So,
well, and I think the public's again, we're cutting each other off again. I think the public still doesn't know what we do as a whole. I think that it's you know, 911 has been around for 50 years, 51 years, and the public still doesn't understand our job. So we have to start from those small bites, like Roxy said, and try to explain from the beginning how is it that it works. And if we talk about the TV show that came out this week, I honestly think they did a really good job kind of explaining it global picture so that the normal citizen and that, you know, normal meaning not in public safety, can understand, because so I think that is important too, is actually breaking down those big words and breaking down our jargon into like a daily speech and actually being able to break it down into smaller bite-sized things that that people can actually absorb.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Both you guys hit it right on the head. A good analogy for me is America is built on wants and haves. Okay, and I'll use Gallatin County, Kentucky's home to the Kentucky Speedway, and previously we just lost our NASCAR race. It's kind of disappointing to us all, but they spend millions of dollars a year to put on one weekend so cars can drive around a track. Countless first responders and equipment and fire apparatus and police cars and personnel and dispatchers and in the command post, and all this goes into that event, right? Spend all kinds of money doing that so that people can have entertainment for 6 or 8 hours. But yet a service like 911 is virtually forgotten, and they just barely give the field what it needs to survive. So it's frustrating, and I think that public education is the key to changing that. I think that if the general public understood exactly how people talk to us on the phone multiple times a shift, if they understood the traumatic situations that we hear and that we're part of, I think that would change. I think that if they saw how hard dispatchers are working behind the scenes to give the police officers and the firefighters and the paramedics every tool and piece of information that they could possibly use to effectively make the outcome of a traumatic incident or a tragic incident different, that would change. But we got to have people above us to support us so that we can get out there and make those things known. But I think part of the problem as well is I don't know that government bodies want the public to know, because it's kind of like the, not seen, it's forgotten. Unfortunately, these are all really hard topics, and especially the technology. We've got entities that are pushing new technology in, and everybody's like, this is great, let's do it. But they're all geared towards a tech savvy generation. And we're forgetting about the elderly generation that can't use a computer, or they don't have smartphones. The only thing they have is the Ladybug flip phone, or the only landlines we really have in our county that are left are the elderly and businesses. We're 98% wireless.
What Ladybug phone are you talking about?
The jitterbug. He means the jitterbug.
Jitterbug?
The jitterbug. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. No. That's, I wanted to make sure that's what you were talking about. That's the one that's got like 2 buttons, right?
The big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got real big buttons on it. And I'm not trying to be rude to the I'm not trying to be rude to the people that are older at all. Right, I didn't mean it in a condescending way. It's just that we have to serve a demographic that's this big, not that big. So, and like I said before in my interview with you, technology's great, okay, but guess what? It doesn't work all the time. Mm-hmm. Guess what always works? People aren't going to have internet connection loss. People aren't going to have battery failures. So I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I told you in my interview, people a whole lot smarter than me are going to have to to put their heads to this.
Well, let's move to the last part of this, because we're coming into the wrap up of this as well. You know, it was already mentioned the most recent, the premiere of emergency calls. So this is kind of like, this is also a form of public education. I've seen a lot of people posting that they've gotten messages from friends or family, or people just on the phone while talking to them saying, thank you for what you do. I didn't realize how, hard of a job that you do, just after watching that. And I think I saw more of a response like that over social media than when the 911 show came out that's on the other channel. But I want to get into trouble, so I don't want to say the channels. But you know what I'm talking about. Because that one is very dramatized, right? But this other one, they're right in there. So let's talk about that really quick. What are some of those advantages there from a show like that? I kind of said some already, but Anne, what's your take on it?
So I just finished watching it today. I'm still digesting it. But I definitely love how, one, they're real calls, they're real dispatchers, they're real centers. It's not the Hollywood 911, it's actually the 911 that we live. I was actually glued to my computer, and my husband came home and he's like talking to me, and I'm like, no, I gotta finish watching this. So it's like, yeah, so it was catching for me, because I know exactly what is going on, and I could see myself in their shoes, and I could definitely see myself in those situations. So I think it's cool to see it so well portrayed.
Awesome. What about you, Ryan?
I haven't seen it. I left the office. What'd you say?
I said spoiler alert.
It's all right. I left the office today at 4:45. Went straight to get my daughter, take her to volleyball, and then her game ended at 7:15. So I literally walked in the door from a volleyball game and got set up for the interview. So I think that in the most cases, the whole Hollywood 911 in it being fake is, in most cases, that's the way it is. The sad thing about it is the general public believes what they see. So,
dude,
they do. I mean,
yeah.
What's the show? I don't even watch it. It takes place in Houston, Texas. It's about a fire department, and the guy's wife is a dispatcher. I can't remember the name of it. It's on network TV.
It's the other one.
Yeah,
Steve was talking about.
The other one. Yeah, it's a spin-off of the other one. So
anyway, that show is, we go out and somebody's like, so is it really like that? No, it's not like that at all. But the problem is it doesn't matter what you and I think. That they want ratings, so they're gonna make it what it is, whether it's real or not. So I don't know what we're ever gonna do about that. That's probably never gonna change.
What about you, Roxy? What'd you think on the not only the show, but how that can play into public education as well? Also, one last thing, real quick, your ringtone sounded like you had a slot machine going.
Okay, so we got a new
at a casino
notification system, and I forgot that I had it. We've literally just had this mass notification system that we're sending calls out on, and I finally got it for me, and I forgot it was on there. So sorry, guys, real life. But I agree with everything you said. I think it gives a great, accurate portrayal of what we do, the fact that there's human emotion behind it. And, Ricardo and I have talked about this at great length. I love that they showed a center like MATCOM in Alaska, so people can understand the differences between dispatch centers, that not all dispatches are the same, and we don't do the same things, and we serve a different type of clientele in each geographical area. So it was really cool to see some of my Alaskan Gold out there doing their thing. So proud of them.
Now, as we go into the wrap up of this round 11 of the Dispatchers Roundtable, for those who are watching right now, for those who are in attendance right now, and those who are going to watch on demand later, what are some things to really take into consideration for when you're doing public education? Because we talked about the pros, but what are some of the cons? What are some of the things the disadvantages? What are some of the things you need to look for when you're building a public education, campaign for your center for 911? Let's start with Ryan.
I think the biggest thing is choose wisely the person you send in the field, because they become the face of what you're trying to convey. And if they're immature and, certain people see many different things as being offensive, and they have to be really careful about how they act and what they do and so on and so forth, because the last thing you want to do is we're already an unseen group of people that are very dedicated and working very hard, and people don't know a lot about us, is send people out in the field that are going to give us a bad reputation. That's, I think, probably the biggest thing for me. And just be personable, just talk to people,
Good. How about you, Ann?
So going along with what Ryan was saying is just, making sure that you're vetting what the people that you're sending out there are going to say. Having like small scripts for them that they can look over. You don't have to read from the script, but like know what stories to tell and what not to say. Because, they might tell a story that may offend somebody. Mm-hmm. Another thing is because, so for us, I'm in a center that services a city that is super diverse. It has two of the most famous universities in the US, right there. We have to cater to so many different populations within our city, right? Like I have to cater to the university population, but within the university, I also have to cater to the international students. Outside of the university, we have a large Hispanic population. We also have a very large Creole population. So just trying to get into all of these small little parts of our city, it's tough because the message has to be changed each time to match what that population needs.
How about you, Roxy?
I don't disagree with either one of them. I think both of those are really important, but also you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just show people why you love it. Show people why it's important. I think selecting the right person or your messages on social media, it just show why you love it and why people should care about it. And having a passion for your job is not a bad thing. So I just think as long as it comes from the heart and it comes with, a lot of fire for your job, it'll come across great, no matter who it's to.
Excellent. Well, thank you, all three of you, for joining me for round 11 as we talk about all these different aspects of public education. Those who are in the audience, I also hope you were, taking notes as well. There was a lot of good stuff here. I think, Ryan, you had a paper pad that you were taking some notes on too. So there you go. That is excellent.
You're the man, bro.
Thank you all for joining me, and I'll be right back here with each of you, and we'll close out here for this round. So for those who are watching, thank you very much for joining us here for public education. There's a lot of different stuff that goes into this. Again, I hope you got a lot out of this. There are many more rounds to come on a bunch of different topics. So once again, this has been sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy. And if you have any comments, questions, or you would like to be a guest on the roundtable, you can send an email to wttpodcast@gmail.com. One more time here, wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. You can also, that is at 91 Podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This show will always be free, but if you're looking for any bonus content that goes along with the entire network, also ad free and bonus episodes, you get them earlier, a week earlier than everyone else, as well as discounts, swag, t-shirts, all types of behind the scenes stuff. You can head over to patreon.com/WTT podcast. And a big thanks to all the patrons for this, for all of you for watching, supporting everything. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you. So thank you so very much. One last thing here. I meant to show this in the beginning, but I'm going to show this now. Okay. So for next week is going to be Dare to Be Great, fall virtual conference. And if you're on Facebook, I've got a giveaway going on. If you change your profile picture, if you go to the podcast page, actually, you'll see a post that's pinned up at the very top with this picture here. And there's frames. So if you change your profile picture, you can if you take a selfie, this is even a bonus entry. Take a selfie of you attending a session for the conference. You can put one of these frames on it. You can look it up with DTBG2, which will be the dark frame, and then there's DTBG2 light, which is for the lighter frame here with the lighter text. Put that as a frame and then post it to that post that's on the podcast page, and there's your entry for an official Dare to Be Great t-shirt. So make sure to do that, and that'll be awesome. And again, thank you all for everything for the flagship show Within the Trenches. You can listen to that 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. All of the rounds that have been done 1 through 11 can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. Thank you all again very much, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time for Open Mic Live. Have your funny ass stories available and ready, because we're going to get down. Thank you all again very much, and I will talk to you soon.